So the Pau Gasol to the Lakers trade, I feel like is looked at as kind of a robbery. And it certainly was that at the time, because nobody knew how good Marc Gasol was going to be. But given that they got Gasol, and then also because of the money they got out of with trading Pau and stuff, that eventually led to them signing Zach Randolph, and that's, of course, the foundation of the grit and grind Grizzlies. So in a way, the trade was still a success for Memphis. They also got 2 first-round picks. I don't think they did much with them, because they got a 2008 first, which I think became Dante Green, which I believe was that like 6'11" 2-guard or something crazy like that. It was something. He was like a wing or whatever. He wasn't good. And then they also got a 2010 first, which I believe they used on Dominique Jones out of South Florida, and he wasn't good either. So if they could have nailed those 2 picks, then I think it would have been looking a lot better. But even so, Gasol, Marc, and Zebo, those 2, one of them directly coming from the move and one of them indirectly, still makes it a plus for Memphis. I mean, that's the value of simply getting cap space and giving yourself the versatility as a front office, you know. The thing to remember about Memphis, now actually I want to say one other thing. There has been talk about they didn't really shop Pau around like that, so perhaps there was a chance that they could have gotten a better offer. Don't know. I mean, given everything that has happened since, it would have been interesting to see if there was an offer that perhaps would have been better in the moment, but not as good long term. I mean, it's impossible to know that, I guess. But if we go back to the 2008 Grizzlies, the team was not going well. I mean, Pau, sure, he was thought of as one of the better players in the league. I don't know exactly what, top 20 or something probably. He was like 27, and the Grizzlies just had 2 straight years of being irrelevant. You know, after winning 49 games in 2006, they won about 20-something games 2 years in a row. They were the worst or second worst team in the league in attendance. It was effectively a dead franchise, and it was going nowhere. So to get out of Gasol and just be like, all right, we gotta switch this up, I can understand that. I mean, it's funny to think about this after I talked about the Chauncey Billups for Iverson trade just yesterday. Like, this to me is when you say, all right, let's get out of our star player right now. Like, we're going absolutely nowhere. And not even nowhere in the sense of like losing in round 2 of the playoffs. I mean, Memphis would have gladly taken that as opposed to what was happening to them in 2008, you know what I mean? So it ended up being okay for them kind of in the longer run, because it did take a minute for Marc Gasol to really take off. And it's interesting to think about how Gasol was playing really well overseas, but a lot of teams still weren't really about him, probably from his, you know, his weight. And also, Gasol has been a little snappy with his personality, I guess. So there were probably some concerns, but Memphis was all in on him, and well, they were smarter than everybody else on that one. Now, Memphis was also kind of high on Javaris Crittenton. You know, you don't win them all. That's all I'm gonna say about that one. But still, overall, I think they kind of got it. I remember another controversy at the time was if Marc Gasol actually wanted to play, you know, come to America or not. So that could have been a bit of a holdup why nobody else really wanted him. But then they got him, and the thing is, like, by 2010, the turnaround had basically already happened. I mean, they got to 40 wins, which, I mean, yeah, that's just mediocre, but at least they were actually going in the right direction. I mean, at this point, Gasol's in year 2. They've signed Zach Randolph, Mike Conley. It was a bit of a process with him to get there, but eventually he got there. And then from about 2011 on, you're getting the grit and grind Grizzlies, and it's a memorable time to remember those guys. I guess we can talk about this from the Lakers' perspective, besides the obvious of they got Pau Gasol, is the thing about Pau to the Lakers. Well, the first thing was that how good that Lakers team was, because there was talk. I mean, basically since they traded Shaq, there was a whole bunch of talk of, well, like, where is this team going, basically, right? But they were good. I mean, Bynum had grown into one of the better centers. I mean, he wasn't lighting the world on fire, but he was doing well. Lamar Odom had become, like, was he the second best player on that team, Odom? I don't know. I mean, I kind of feel like he was before Powell ended up there, but maybe Bynum actually was if you were watching every game. It's always kind of surprised me that Caron Butler didn't end up being a long-term piece for the Lakers after they, took him on from Miami. Because he was in the Shaq trade, I believe, right? It's kind of wild to think that they traded Caron Butler and Chucky Atkins for Kwame Brown and a guy named LaRon Profit. Is that a real NBA player? I don't know. Yeah, Caron Butler would have been a nice piece for the Lakers. I mean, maybe it would have been a little expensive. I don't remember his contract situation and all that. But, yeah, the team was good. The point being, when they traded for Gasol on February 3rd, or at least that was around his first game, the Lakers were 30-16, which was a whole hell of a lot better than, just the season before. I mean, they were struggling to just be a decent team because it was Kobe and a bunch of whatever. Well, Lamar Odom was all right, and they were kind of waiting for Andrew Bynum, and eventually he got going a little bit. And then I remember basically from the moment they got Powell, it was like, oh yeah, this team is going to the finals. I mean, I think they were 22-5 with him when he played, because he was injured for a stretch in that regular season. And then, of course, they get to the finals and what happened. But the thing with Powell was how, I mean, this has been said, like, he picked up the triangle immediately. And it makes sense. I mean, Pau Gasol is one of the smartest bigs I've seen play. He was a really good passer. I mean, his playmaking overall, about 3 assists a game. Like, it doesn't jump out at you, but I feel like if he played, if he was just like able to operate a little bit more, kind of like his brother Marc in the post and guys cutting off of that and stuff, I feel like he could have gotten to like 5 or 6 assists a game. The only thing is he wasn't going off the dribble like that, so it wouldn't really be like a Jokic thing, but you could argue that Gasol was a few years ahead of his time. Prime Gasol, I mean, he retired like this season, so technically he was still going, but you know what I mean. So I think we can say that while in the immediate thing, it looked like the Grizzlies got robbed for Powell, it was a win for both teams. Lakers became title contenders, won 2 championships. Celtics fan in me would like to remind everybody, Kevin Garnett missed one of those postseasons. I should also say Andrew Bynum missed the finals in the first one. That's fair, but just saying. But still, they got 2 chips, 3 NBA Finals appearances, and the Grizzlies dug themselves out of a hole and resulted in their best years ever as a franchise. Is that fair to say? I feel like it kind of is. What would have happened if this move didn't happen, or maybe Memphis decides to shop Powell around a little bit more? Because it is a thing. Like, it does seem like they didn't make it known to everybody that Powell was really available. Again, it's tough to really know. I mean, you have to assume the Lakers would have attempted some other trade. Would they have been able to get Pau Gasol? Probably not. The wild thing about this trade was that it didn't happen at the deadline. Like, the deadline was weeks later. Typically, if you are trading Gasol, you would push it to the deadline so everybody makes their best offer. I mean, to be honest, looking at the other players who were moved at that deadline, the most significant one was probably Shaq to the Suns, and I don't... Call me crazy, I don't think the Lakers would have traded for Shaq. So, yeah, I don't know. They would have had to... They could have done Cleveland's move to get, like, Delonte West and Zerbiak, and then Kobe could have lost his mind hoping those guys will make threes. I don't know, but it worked out for both teams involved. The Memphis side of this reminds me kind of like the Pacers thing with the Paul George trade, where, once again, I do like it when teams prove the rest of us wrong. Because I think us as NBA fans, sometimes we just need to be proven that we're all morons. You know what I mean? So.